This is the second devlog for Calamity Star, a 2D open-world RPG that I've been developing as a hobby. Last time we covered the spellcrafting and spellcasting system of the game. This log will be focused on the character stats and abilities as well as the martial arts system for non-mage characters. The character has 7 different attributes and a number of different skills, as well as blood and teot, the hit points and magic points of the game. Strength controls the amount of gear you can carry with you and adds bonus damage to melee attacks. Agility makes your ranged attacks and spells travel further and will eventually factor into the ability of the player to pick locks. Endurance, along with your character level, determines the total hit points of your character. Cultivation determines the rate at which your magic points regenerate. Mysticism is a bit like endurance, but determines your total magic points and isn't tied to character level. Personality is tied to social checks in dialogue and will also be tied to the amount you receive trading with merchants. As merchants don't currently exist, and there aren't many social checks in the existing dialogue system, at the moment this stat is basically worthless. Luck is the final stat, and determines the value of the loot you discover, as well as reducing the chance to fumble a spell or attack, and increasing the chance to launch a critical spell or attack. Spell failure is tied to the cost of the spell relative to your total magic pool, and so both more mysticism and more luck increases the odds of a successful casting. Your teot points aren't just for magical characters, however. Non-magic characters have access to martial arts and marksmanship instead. These allow you to create maneuvers which function much the same way that spells do, except that additional damage from your weapon will automatically be added into your attack. Thus, if I use this simple poison blade maneuver, not only will the attack deal 5 points of poison damage, but it will also deal 5 points of slashing damage from this maneuvercrafting that I currently have equipped. Attack damage is further modified by your character's weapon skills, which boosts the damage of certain weapon types wielded by your character, allowing you to specialize in a specific weapon type, or simply build to prioritize damage. Because martial arts maneuvers have additional damage from your wielded weapon, your weapon skills, and your strength scores, martial arts typically deals more damage than magics and spells do. However, martial arts maneuvers have a much smaller list of effects than magic does, and so spellcasting is less damage-focused, but more versatile with the ability to cast from a range. Marksmanship is similar to martial arts, with their maneuvers dealing additional damage depending on their equipped weapon and their skill with the weapon in question. Thus it deals, on average, less damage than martial arts, but with the benefit of being at a range and having additional spell effects not available to martial arts. An example here is the triple toss attack, shown with the tomahawks I have equipped. This uses the fan maneuver effect. The effect causes the attack to launch multiple projectiles at the cost of additional ammunition. Both martial arts and marksmanship have access to the self effect we talked about in the last video. This allows for internal martial arts to heal or strengthen the body. For obvious reasons, a maneuver with the self effect will not apply weapon damage to the maneuver. Using these internal maneuvers, we can see that warriors likewise have access to abilities that emulate the healing spell effect as well as the water walking spell effect we saw in the previous video. Finally is a note about physical damage types. There are 3 types of physical damage in the game: slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing. Each weapon primarily deals one form of damage, but some weapons can be used to deal other forms of damage as well. For example, the maneuvercrafting I have equipped primarily deals slashing damage, but you could also potentially strike with the flat of the weapon to deal bludgeoning damage. To do this, all that is needed is to use a martial arts maneuver that deals bludgeoning damage. This deals the damage listed by the maneuver, but also converts the base slashing damage into bludgeoning. This can be useful against an enemy that has resistance to slashing damage, or if you want to use bludgeoning damage to try to smash through rocks or similar obstacles. If you attempt to use a maneuver that deals bludgeoning damage with a weapon that does not have the damage type available, such as this tomahawk, it will instead simply deal its base damage type, and any additional bludgeoning damage dealt by that maneuver will instead be dealt by damage of the base type. In addition to the weapon skills we talked about, there are 2 other types of skills available to the player: primary skills and elemental skills. Primary skills are the abilities your character has based on their starting class. Each character starts with 2, but can potentially learn additional skills from different trainers in the game. The primary skills important for discussing today are martial arts, marksmanship, and thaumaturgy. Each skill grants the ability to use martial arts maneuvers, marksmanship maneuvers, or spellcasting respectively, and every class has at least one of these abilities, or a variant of them. Additionally, each point on the skill reduces the magic cost of the maneuvers or spells of that type. Elemental skills are similar, each representing one of the 6 elements of the system. Each spell effect is of a specific color-coded element, and your skill in that element similarly reduces the cost of its associated spell effects and maneuver effects. This is useful for players who want to use both maneuvers and spells, and can help them reduce the costs of both by specializing in a specific element. Or alternately, it can be used by players who have maxed out their primary skill and wish to specialize to further reduce spell cost and maneuver cost. That's it for the second devlog. The third devlog will showcase the procedural dungeon generation, the inventory and loot system, as well as a few of the creatures that have been implemented into the game so far.